Hi everybody, Colin Stevenson here again with my hero John Lenhart. Hi John.
How you doing?
John and I are going to discuss definitions today. Now definitions are very, very, very important because when we talk about definitions, what we're actually doing is we are giving an explanation as to the way that we think and what we're actually saying. And this is where confusion, breakdown in communication and arguments come from. John, would you like to tell us a little bit more, please?
Yeah, that was actually great the way you opened it up, because really every argument comes down to definitions. That's what I've learned. And a lot of people say, I don't want to get into semantics, but really all semantics is the definition for the words you're using. And I like to say every argument comes down to one of two things. Either you and I are using the same word with two different definitions, or you and I are using two different words with the same definition. So really, when you look at this, it's like this definition thing becomes important to dealing with these arguments. Now, our brains physiologically work with definitions. Remember, we've talked about these dendrites. You can't form a thought unless you internally have a definition for word, and you do. So that's how this works. And I'll tell you, there's a book I read called The Man with a Shattered World. It's a story of a military guy in World War II from Russia. He got shot on the side of his head. Okay. And what happened was we say his mind, his soul, his uniqueness was intact. His unconscious brain was intact. His conscious brain was damaged. And so everything works through the conscious brain. And the two interesting things about the book that I'll say off the top, there's a lot, but two is, number one, is you see with your brain, you don't see with your eyes. So because his conscious brain was damaged, he saw everything like it was at the end of like a periscope. So what would happen is when he'd look at a word, he could only see that word and the word to the left, because your brain fills in everything else you see. You physically are only seeing this little thing, and your brain is filling in conscious brain. When he got damaged in conscious brain, he could only see this and everything else was black. The second thing was it took him 20 years to write 1,000 pages. And the book is really a study of a man, a soul, a mind working through a damaged conscious brain to communicate. And as he worked through it, and as his conscious brain repaired a little bit and he can work his way through it, the number one thing he said was, everything begins with a definition. And his example is if you say something about your elbow to me, he said, I have to go, elbow, where is that? Oh, it's a part of the body. Where is it? Is it near my head or near my butt, is what he said. And it's like, that's the thing with what you're doing, whether you know it or not, is every sentence I'm saying to you right now, your brain is taking every one of those words, figuring out the definition for every one word really, really quickly, and then looking at it in context and then giving you a meaning. So if your definitions are off, that's the first step. Everything you're trying to say and do is going to be off.
Yeah, I love that. Now, so much I would like to talk about this. Now, you and I met through you asking me a definition. Now, because most of the people on this planet, and I'm going to say most, not all, most, when you ask them a question, I don't believe they have a definition, because most people like to open their mouth and let their belly rumble, is what we say. And what happens is it's just hot air that comes out, and then when you ask them that definition, they become uptight and scared because they go, I can't answer this. So then what they do is they can lash out, they can cause fights, they can act like you're trying to belittle them, all these things. Now, it's down to them not having the definition of what they said. Now, when you asked me, I remember I put the status on about parent versus leader or leader versus parent, and you had asked me something about what I had already said. Now, I had answered that in my definition, excuse me, and you had asked me a question that could have been interpreted different. So what I did was I took the same answer and I put it into different words in case that was able to resonate with you better. Now, that was where you and I started. Now, the most people, when you ask people these definitions, they can't not only reword them, they don't know where it came from. And this is what is causing, in my belief anyway, most of the conflict on the planet.
Yeah, you said there's two great things you said in there. So first of all, the key thing is everybody has a definition for every word they use, or they wouldn't be able to think.
Yeah.
So I love, just like you said, I love to find out how somebody's thought process works by asking them a definition of a word they use, because they have to have a definition. If they lash out, I know they have a really destructive brain, and I can walk away from them because they're just trying to be destructive and trying to hurt people. Like you said, I say 94% of people avoid giving their definition for a word. And it's because they consciously don't know it. And I'll tell people the worst thing you can do is not answer the question. Because if you don't give me a definition for a word you use, then you are controllable like an animal. So that's one of the things is if you use a word and I ask you a definition and you don't answer it, you might think, oh, I'm just going to outrun these people. And I deal with a lot of PhD professors, like even from Ivy League schools, who think I'm just going to outrun you. And then they can't understand why they can't outrun me. Because I know they don't know the definition of the word they're using, or they're not confident in it. And I can use that to control their thought process. So the worst thing is not to be able to answer it. So when I started on LinkedIn, I spent 2 months asking people their definitions, especially the word leader. Nobody answered, and I thought I was going to make it a full year without nobody answering it. And then you, Colin, were the first person to answer it. So that's real. And it doesn't matter if your definition is non-contradictory or not. You have a great thought process if you can answer the question of what's your definition for a word you use. Now, the second half of that was how you and I built a relationship. So the beginning of the relationship, I use asking people the definition to find out if they're even worth building a relationship. Like if people don't give you a definition, they're destructive. They're going to be a drain. You can walk away from them and not feel guilty. When they give you the definition, what I realize is these people are diamonds. They don't even know it. They don't even think, you didn't even think that was your measure. And so what happens is now I can build a relationship. And what I did was what you naturally did. I don't naturally do it. I have to think about this. But it's like, it doesn't matter what word I use. I want to use your word. And you naturally did that back with me, and you described that really well, is I'll say to people, okay, then what, if they give me a definition of a word that's different than my definition for the word, I can say, okay, this word, when you and I talk, this word means what you said. Can you tell me what word you would use for the definition, for my definition of that word? Because I'll adjust. You do that, Colin. That's why you and I know how to build healthy relationships. We know, first of all, who's healthy. And then second of all, we know that these words and definitions, this communication is everything when it comes to building a healthy relationship.
Now, while you're talking about that, so I get clients come to me on the daily. And since speaking with yourself over the last year and growing and learning, and I've grown more than I ever thought humanly possible, genuinely. And what happens now when people come in, obviously we discussed that I do tarot readings, and I don't like calling it coaching. I like to call it bringing out their essence. Okay, I bring out their person's own essence. That's what I do. Now, when I speak to them and it comes up, whether it's the tarot cards, whether it's people believing it or not, when it comes up and I talk about the issue of partnership, relationship, with the children, whatever, I said, I see a lot of fighting here, and I can see the person's acting like this, like this. Now, when this comes along, do you ever ask the person what they mean by the hurtful things that they say to you? And they say no. I say, so you're presuming what they're saying is what they mean, and it's not. And they go, wow, I've never thought about that before. And I'll say, yeah. So the next time they call you a name, if it's bad, or the next time they even say something, ask them what they mean by that. And what will happen is you'll probably not get a definition. They will either ignore you or they will lash out. If they lash out, you walk away and leave it. They're left with the unconscious confrontation. If they give you a definition, you will probably find out that they didn't mean what they said like that at all, and you're getting yourself upset over nothing.
Right. That's exactly it. And the thing is, we talked about that with dissolving racism, about respect. Respect is treating other people the way they want to be treated.
Yes.
And in order to do that, you have to understand them. In order to understand them, you have to find out what they mean by what they say. And the ultimate level of respect is, can I repeat back to you what you mean to your satisfaction? And if we did that, we'd never have another problem ever. And then what's really shocking is to go to these people and say, do you want to end racism? Do you want to end sexism? Do you want to have world peace? I'll do anything for that. Well, all you have to do is start with you, explain to other people what they mean, by what they're saying to their satisfaction. And these people just walk away, because they're not going to yell at you because they know inside that is the right answer.
Yeah.
And they're going to hurt themselves if they yell at you, but they don't want to do it. And so now they find out the people out there saying, let's stop racism, sexism, and have world peace, are the cause of racism and the lack of world peace. So yeah, that's exactly it. The thing is that I don't like definitions. I am an engineer. Okay, I'm a math guy. I love numbers. I wish everybody had a number, because it's more unique than like pollen. How many pollens do I know? They're all different. That doesn't make sense to me. So I will tell you, when I talk so much, and I talk so much about definitions, because it is the key. Like, if you really want to fix and dissolve these issues, it begins with definitions.
Yeah.
Everybody does everything through a thought process. Every thought process begins with definitions. So when I see anybody talk about anything other than definitions, they're hurting people. So what I do is I talk about definitions. People immediately assume you love definitions, your definitions. And I sit there and go, these are not my definitions. These are the non-contradictory definitions. And I don't like definitions. I would rather not deal with this. So the big misinterpretation I believe people have about me is, I can show you what the non-contradictory definition is for keywords that would help you be healthy. People instantly go, well, you just think you're better than me. You know what? Honestly, having perfect definitions doesn't make you a great person. It's the opposite of that. Having wrong definitions and not giving definitions to words you use abuses others.
Yes.
All I'm trying to show people is definitions are a hurdle. If we don't use our words right, and if we don't have non-abusive definitions, we are going to not get any further in life, and we are actually going to hurt other people. Yeah. All I've been offering people with understanding definitions is the ability to stop hurting other people. From there, it's finding your uniqueness and growing that more. So these hurdles, these words and these definitions are just hurdles. They just limit damage. And when people reject me trying to share definitions, they are telling their unconscious brain they want to abuse people, and they are telling their unconscious brain they want to help other people abuse people.
Yes. Now, that, I think, kind of wraps it up. I just want to say one more thing, if you don't mind, and it's going to talk about obviously we follow each other on LinkedIn, and to watch the interactions with some people. Now, sometimes I don't like getting involved in drama. You don't like getting involved in drama, but sometimes you're able to stop the drama by asking the person that's causing the drama with a definition. And then what you'll find is they'll go back into their hole and they won't come back out. Now, if you can see 50 people on a thread, and this one person is causing all sorts of problems, which we've seen on many occasions, you and you come in and you say, what is your purpose here? Obviously, it's because there's something going on inside that they can't fulfill, because they're not in their unique self, so they have to express certain amounts to other people. And then you come in and you ask them a question, and what you'll have, the post goes quiet and they go away. So it's very, very, very beneficial to everybody and drama, and and all sorts of communication in life. It's the best thing. A definition as much as you don't like it, it's not natural to you, it's not your thing. It is the most, I think it's amazing how it just be used.
Right. The definitions and our communication guidelines, how to start a sentence the right way versus how to do it unhealthy. And so I don't like drama, but I love what you just said. I love it when people, and this just happened last week, not even by you, but by someone else, but you do this for me as well, which I love, but someone else did this, where they were on a thread. There were 70 replies. So there was a post, all these different comments. One guy made a comment that was really abusive, passive aggressive, and he basically poked people he got 70 replies. And he would just love upsetting people, and people get sucked into getting upset. And then this person I know put my name, basically said, John Lenhart linked me, can you help this guy, basically the commenter. And that was her way of saying, can you bring this thing to an end? And I love that, Colin. I love coming. It's a samurai thing. You and I talked about it.
Yeah.
It's the samurai used to walk around and keep the peace and bring justice. Okay. And not for any type of a monetary gain, just to help. And I do see myself as kind of a samurai on LinkedIn, where like if somebody wants to pull me in to an argument to sort the whole thing out, I love it. But what happens is what you said is I come in, I ask a question, I might get a response. I'll ask another question or make it, or share something. And then, like you said, 70 replies went to nothing.
Yeah.
And the guy who caused the trouble never responded afterwards to that. And it's like, I do like that. I'll be honest. I do like walking in, taking a couple of backward steps, asking a couple of questions, and dissolving this right away. And I do like the value I get from everybody on LinkedIn, and especially LinkedIn itself, that they have a record of all these instances. They have a record of my ability to stop all of these arguments and all of this abuse, and they have never, ever, ever, ever reached out to me to try and understand how I've done that, even though they have more than a year experience. So I love moving off of LinkedIn. I love it.
No, I love it. No, listen, thank you so much for coming on again, John. We could talk about the definitions all day, but I think people will get from this video, they will get the gist, and they will understand moving forward, asking more questions, getting the definition, they will understand that their life will be less drama. So thank you again, and I look forward to speaking to you soon. Cheers, John.
All right. Yeah.
Bye-bye.